This is Agriculture Today. I'm Samantha Bennett with the K-State Radio Network. Ahead of us on this Tuesday's programming, we start with a two-segment series where we are joined by K-State professor in precision agriculture and department head for agronomy, Dr. Raj Khosla. He discusses research that he has been a part of for over a decade now, looking at the creation and use of biodegradable soil chips that aim to take real-time measures of water and nitrate contents in soil. Dr. Khosla also discusses the unique opportunities here at K-State and the important role that infrastructure plays in supporting the university's land grant mission. We end with this week's edition of Milk Lines with K-State dairy specialist Mike Brouk. This week, he encourages employers to take advantage of the upcoming holiday season to show their appreciation for all of the work their employees do throughout the year. That and more is coming up ahead on Agriculture Today. This is Agriculture Today. We are back now with Dr. Raj Khosla, and he is a professor of precision agriculture here at K-State and also the head of agronomy. So, Dr. Khosla, thanks for joining us today. I'm so happy to have you in studio.
Thank you so much, Samantha, for having me over here.
Absolutely. So today our conversation is really going to focus around precision agriculture and technology in agriculture. And part of that is this over a decade-long research project that you've been working on. And it's with soil chip research. So let's start with that. Where did this idea really stem from?
Yeah, so precision agriculture has now been around for about 30 years or so, I would say. And if you look at what industry has enabled us, practitioners, scientists, farmers, and farmers community, is that they have provided us the tools and technology to apply agricultural inputs how much we want, where we want, when we want in our fields. But we all know we can only manage what we can measure. So while we have the tools and technology to deliver our farm inputs to the level of granularity we would like to see them, how do we make decision? How much to apply, where to apply, when to apply? That calls for measuring properties of interest. We all know water is precious, okay? And we have center pivots or laterals or drip system that we can deliver how much water we want, where we want, when we want in the field. But how do we make a decision? And precision ag research has shown us that there is tremendous amount of spatial, meaning space-related, and temporal, time-related variability that exists in our soil systems, in our fields, farm fields, crop fields, in landscapes. We need to measure those. And to measure those requires sensing, okay? And that has been the brainchild behind, could we place sensors out in the field in enough quantity so that we don't have to do guesswork how much soil moisture is in the soil profile, and use that information along with other pieces of information such as the crop type, the growth stage, soil type, humidity, temperature, wind speed, all the other environmental parameters that help us decide how much water need to be applied, when and where. The idea is, how do we, enhance the water use efficiency, use every drop of water that goes into the production system. That's an example for water. There are other important parameters of interest that are important to ag.
Absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned water. Obviously, I feel like the summer, the drought we've been experiencing, that's something that's on everybody's minds. But nitrate is also something that you guys have been measuring as well. That's
right. So there are two sensor development elements that our group, along with two other groups that have been working together. One group is with University of California, Berkeley. They are the computer and electrical engineers. And then another group of material scientists and engineers from University of Colorado, Boulder, and then a group of us from our lab focused on soil science and agronomy. So the engineers are putting together chips, very small chips, that we can distribute out in the field and maybe even bury them down to 6 inches depth, that are batteryless and are hopefully one day made out of biodegradable material that you can distribute out in the field in dozens, if not hundreds. And you can communicate with them through radio waves. So they're basically sleeping all the time out in the soil. And when you ping them with the radio wave, they wake up for a millisecond, do their job or measurement, and send that information back to your phone or to your desktop computer. And then you use geostatistics or statistical tools or software, if you may, to stitch that data together and almost instantaneously. And that way, as a farmer or as a practitioner, when you're getting ready to make a decision how much water to be applied, where and when, you get an instant record of how much is out there in your soil profile, and then all of the parameters that I mentioned to you earlier. And when was the last time you irrigated, or when was the last precipitation, and incorporate all those into your decision tree, how you make a decision, how much water to apply, where and when, and then actuate them in real time. And in fact, in our big scheme of things, I envision that someday when we have these suite of sensors functional, not just prototypes or research grade, but functional and commercially available, that farmers will ping them multiple times during the week or even during the day, that as the pivot or the lateral is moving across the field, they can change the rate of application on the go.
Wow. Real time. That's the key here. Because
that's the key.
We were chatting beforehand, and you were telling me, you were like, this technology, obviously, parts of it have been available for a long time. Obviously, we already take soil samples right now. We send them off, and we get that data back, but it takes time, and it takes resources to take the time to sample, send it off, those people to process it, send the results back. And over the course of that time, obviously changes can happen. You can get a big rainstorm that comes through, or, the microbes in your soil change, or what have you, whatever it may be. So this is really the appeal of this research, why it's so significant. It's because it's the innovation around that already available resource, just real time.
Samantha, you're exactly right. Ability to measure soil moisture has been around for many, many, many decades. What's new here is ability to measure soil moisture in situ without disturbing the soil, without destructively taking a soil sample from the field, without having the need for someone to go to the field, collect soil sample, analyze it, process it, send it to the lab, or get a measurement. All that happens in situ, in place. And you can take this measurement as frequently as you want or as less frequently as you want. And then because you have so many of these sensing devices scattered out in the field, and you're using internet along with these sensing devices to send that information to your phone or to your desktop computer, that you can stitch that product together and get the big picture of your field, of your farm, whatever have you, whatever is your object of interest, and then use decades of knowledge and science that we have in place. And as we continue to learn more about how Mother Nature behaves, it allows us to make better decision-making process. How do we apply the right input at the right time, at the right place, in the right amount, and in the right manner? The 5 R's of precision agriculture. I think every day we're getting closer to be able to deliver what precision agriculture promises us.
Absolutely, and what a game changer that would be, especially, like I said, situations like this year where drought has been so prevalent across the entire state. But when we think about, especially western Kansas, the allocation amounts that they have of how much water they actually have available to them, a tool like this would allow them to precisely, without lack of a better word,
right,
decide how much is needed and necessary for their crops to continue to grow, but then also plan for the future in case the drought is prolonged, like we've really seen.
You're exactly right. So imagine an irrigated crop of corn may take about 2 acre-feet of water. But if you have only 1 acre-feet of water, well, how do you decide how much to apply, when to apply, where to apply, so that you can maximize the impact of that water on your crop production systems? And think about it. The USDA Agriculture Innovation Agenda that came out in year 2020 calls for, it's a really ambitious plan, it calls for that by 2050, we will continue to increase our production by 40% as compared to year 2020. But not only that, I think if we continue our trajectory, we can get there. But what else that USDA Agricultural Innovation Agenda calls for is doing all of that with 50% less water and 50% less nitrogen. And that's why we cannot leave any room for error. We have to be precise. We have to be reliable. We have to be rapid, reproducible, and not just once or twice, but every time we're making a decision to apply an input to our fields. And, our focus is on water and nitrogen, two of the big drivers in ag production systems. But there are others around our nation that are working on other parameters of interest as well.
We'll be cutting to a short break now here shortly, but before we do, this conversation isn't over yet with a professor in precision agriculture and department head of agronomy, Dr. Raj Khosla. We continue our discussion on his research when we return, and also on the importance of infrastructure here at K-State, and how that ties into the incredible work of not only our researchers here, but also in supporting our students' education, as well as producer learning through extension programming. Once again, we'll be back with more shortly on Agriculture Today. Today, we are continuing our conversation now with Dr. Raj Khosla. He is a K-State professor in precision agriculture, as well as the department head of agronomy here at K-State. We are continuing our conversation, like I mentioned, on both his research involving biodegradable soil chips, as well as the significant role that infrastructure plays in not only his research and his department's research, but the entire mission and land-grant mission of K-State. Once again, we're continuing our conversation now. When I think about things like that, the term sustainability, oftentimes communicators, we frame it as having three legs, right? It's a three-legged stool. So there's the sustainability of it environmentally, there's the sustainability of it economically for our producers, and then there's, the social aspect of things, how it's viewed by society and things like that. And obviously research like this, what you're hoping to achieve with it, obviously it's not available right now yet, but what you're hoping to achieve, it achieves all three of those things, really.
I sure hope so. That how do we continue to enjoy what we do, ag, produce more food, but do it more efficiently, hopefully make more money so that we're motivated and can raise our family and communities and do it in a sustainable manner. I mean, those are the four goals of precision agriculture systems since inception.
We were chatting beforehand why we kind of chose to come to K-State. I say recent, but in the last several years, you made the move here to Manhattan as well. And a big part of that is just the availability of resources and then the people that work here. And a big part of resource is infrastructure here at K-State. And I understand that, that's a big part of the work that you guys do in agronomy. It's so important.
There are very few institutions, land-grant institutions in the U.S., that can really say, you know what, in about 5 to 10 minutes, our kids or students can walk from campus to the research farm. Well, we happen to be one of those. We have Agronomy North Farm right at the campus. And that's such a valuable asset that we have, taking students from crop science class, lecture class, to the crop science lab in Agronomy Education Center. Takes you less than 10 minutes. And what's happening with this revitalization project that President Linton is leading here at K-State is going to give a big shot in our arm, because the vision is to create a new research and innovation center at Agronomy North Farm. That will enable us to do interdisciplinary, cutting-edge work like what we talked about, working closely with engineers and social scientists and agronomists and soil scientists and creative thinkers from across the campus, and also with private partners. Because think about it, we can innovate, but the private partners are the ones that take that innovation and convert it into a product and do the last mile, take it to the farmers and farmers community. And so, I'm sure hopeful that we will break ground in spring of next year to start working on this research and innovation center at the Agronomy North Farm. And I can imagine, or I can envision, how much more we can do with this state-of-the-art new facility to be able to address complex, or if you would allow, wicked challenges in agriculture that requires multidisciplinary approach, out-of-the-box thinking, trying and testing things that we haven't done before, and doing all of that under the same roof. Right next to that is the extension and outreach. We can bring in our farmers and stakeholders and other for them to see and touch and feel what those new technologies are. Run a demonstration farm there. Another element I must mention that many of our faculty members are working on putting together a farm of the future, demonstration farm right there, so that our farmers and people from our rural communities can come and see and touch and feel and pick and choose what may work in their operations and what they want to embrace a few years later, and then empowering our undergraduates to be well educated in the agriculture of the future. I think we're getting closer and closer to realizing that vision we have here at K-State.
Preparing our students is such an important component of everything that goes on here at K-State. And how better than giving them these state-of-the-art facilities to learn from and to get hands-on, like you said, instruction from, so that way when they leave here and they go into industry, whether that's in Kansas or even beyond, they can say, hey, this is what we did in our state-of-the-art facilities at K-State. This is how we can replicate it in whatever resources they have wherever they go. And I think that's a big deal.
You're exactly right. I would like to mention to my audience that in agronomy, we have 100% placement of our students. So if you have your kids or, neighbors or cousins or siblings or whoever in whatever capacity enroll, send them to K-State. In fact, not only 100% placement, if kids have it their way, they could have more than one job right now, when they graduate out of the agronomy program and other programs in College of Agriculture. So we would really welcome their participation and preparation for us to continue to farm well with limited resources and be outstanding in our field.
I keep thinking about that, that innovation farm, like you mentioned, for extension stakeholders to come. That's the majority of our listeners, I think. What an opportunity for them to have their needs met by our team here at K-State firsthand. I mean, how better to interact with people than here in Manhattan, where everything is readily available. Once this is broken ground on and is put into place and actually made into fruition, things like that. But how better to have their needs met than here in Manhattan with all of our available multidisciplinary resources that we have.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much. You said it very well.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Khosla, I can't thank you enough for your time. I know you are a very busy individual, so I'm so happy to have you in studio today, but thank you so much.
Pleasure was all mine. Thank you.
Absolutely. Once again, that was Dr. Raj Khosla. He's a professor of precision agriculture here at K-State, as well as the head of agronomy, discussing his latest research, his decade-long effort, really, of biodegradable soil chip research and how it can help lead to the future of innovation in agriculture. Speaking of innovation, you'll now be hearing from Rod Bain, a reporter with USDA's Newsline, who shares insight on the 50-year milestone marking the partnership between the National Agricultural Statistics Service and the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture that has allowed for the obtaining and sharing of national agricultural statistics.
The relationship between the Agriculture Department's National Agricultural Statistics Service and state departments and commissions of agriculture is nothing new. As NASS Administrator Hubert Haber explains,
a number of states have actually been in cooperative relationship with NASS for more than 100 years. We've got 15 states that have been working with us in a cooperative manner over 100 years.
However, it wasn't until 1972 that a mechanism was put in place that created a formal relationship between NASS and the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture. One allowing collaboration in collecting ag data and statistics. This is NASDA past president Richard Ball of New York.
Went up to 20 states, and it was in 1978 when the surveys were expanded to include all 50 states.
And NASS Administrator Haber elaborates.
This partnership has been very valuable as it has facilitated the collection of information from all of the farmers and ranchers across the United States.
With a further illustration of how NASS and a state ag department or commission works together in the collection and gleaning of data.
A state like California, basically what we're able to do is augment the federal program. We have a number of commodities that we're providing information at the federal level. And if the state departments or ag, if they need additional information beyond the federal program, we're able to collect that information on a cost reimbursable basis. I mean, California has hundreds of different commodities, and we've been able to work with them as an example to collect some of that information and not have statisticians on the state rolls and on the federal rolls. So we're able to maximize what we do, and our services are complementary and not duplicative.
A state perspective of this agreement and the importance of enumerators on the ground level is offered by Louisiana State Ag Commissioner Michael Strain and Oklahoma Ag Commissioner Blythe Arthur.
You have to think about all the work that has been done and the usefulness of the data that has been collected, plus all the progress we've made utilizing that data in the field of agriculture and forestry.
I think the relationships that the enumerators build are incredibly important so that we get that quality data. These are familiar faces to people in their communities, and I think that gives a great comfort level for our producers.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
Once again, that was Rod Bain reporting for the USDA's Newsline. On the 50-year anniversary between the National Agricultural Statistics Service and the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture. As always, if you are on the go and listening to us on the radio with one of our radio station partners, and you're wanting to listen to more from Agriculture Today through the rest of today's programming, be sure to check out our podcast. We are available as a podcast anywhere podcasts can be found. Simply search for Agriculture Today, and you should find us there. Be sure to give us a listen, and that's also where the show notes for today's program can be found with all of the available links that are discussed during today's programming. We'll be back with more ahead on Agriculture Today.
Listening to Agriculture Today over the K-State Radio Network. Along with Samantha Bennett, I'm Jeff Wickman. As usual, we end the Tuesday edition of Agriculture Today with this week's milk lines. With the holidays quickly approaching, dairy producers should be thinking about ways that they can show their appreciation for their employees. K-State dairy specialist Mike Brouk says that a company party, along with gifts that employees will appreciate and can actually use, are some of the things that employers might consider as a way to show their appreciation.
Today I want to talk to our Kansas dairy producers concerning showing appreciation to employees. As we approach the holiday season, it's an excellent time to show appreciation to your employees. You know, on many of our farms for the last couple of years, it's been kind of tough actually with the COVID issues and sometimes having difficulty finding enough workers to actually perform all the things that need to be done every day on a dairy. We really need to show some appreciation to our employees. I know it's been tough on producers, but the people that stand shoulder to shoulder with you every day to get the things done on your dairy farm really need some appreciation shown. So, what are some things you can do? Well, one of the things you can do is just catch them doing the right things. Just show appreciation for them every day as you see them do their jobs in the right way. and helping them develop those right habits. Sometimes we're quick to correct, but we also need to reward them and encourage them when they are doing the right things. So make a point to do that. Secondly, let's think about the holiday season. I don't know what you normally do on your dairy, but maybe this is that year that you really need to have some sort of celebration. What does that need to look like? Well, it's different for every dairy. Some dairies, it just involves the employees. Sometimes it's the employee and their spouse. Or sometimes it's the employee and the employee's family. Just kind of depends on what kind of a party you want to throw. Now, with a party, obviously you have to have food. You'll figure that one out. You need to think about gifts, though. So, what are some gifts that people usually really appreciate? Well, usually branded jackets, shirts, coveralls, those sorts of things, maybe with your company name or company name and logo, whatever works on your dairy, are usually generally appreciated. Hats, gloves, those things that we need in the winter season are also generally greatly appreciated. Now, you think about, this is going to be a big bill. Well, it will be, but you may be able to spread some of that out. You might want to talk to the suppliers of your dairy. Maybe they would be willing to donate some things toward your efforts to show appreciation to your employees. And don't forget, if you're having kids come to the party, there needs to be some things that are appropriate for them as well. And sometimes suppliers are very good at having items that would be appropriate for the kids. So as you think about what you're going to give as gifts, there's some other things to consider. For some employees, maybe you need to do something a little different than the typical jacket or coveralls. Maybe the person really enjoys sports. So what types of sports tickets could you give them that they would really greatly appreciate? It might be to a college game, it might be to a professional game or semi-professional game, whatever the case may be. For someone that really enjoys getting away and seeing a sporting event, that could be very important. How about for that employee that's maybe having a difficult time and has really spent a lot of hours at work, maybe not so much time at home? Well, maybe a weekend getaway is the appropriate thing for them. So whether or not you have a party, you need to really make sure you show your employees consideration and appreciation for the job that they've done the last year. Holiday season is a perfect time to do that, and now is the time to start planning how you're going to reward your dependable employees. This is Mike Brouk with K-State Research and Extension.
Thanks, Mike. And just a reminder to listen to the podcast version of Agriculture Today, visit agtoday.net. That's agtoday.net. And to receive new episodes automatically, just tap the subscribe button. For Samantha Bennett, I'm Jeff Wickman, and this is the K-State Radio Network.